So hey guys, this is a story of Bendy the Bunny called Repetitions, Repeating Mistakes, and it talks about a family who, yeah. I'm not gonna tell much more, so without further ado, let's start with chapter 00, which is called Prologue. Beginnings. A hospital. This was where the beginning was. Am I right? A beautiful young woman in her early 20s was laying on the hospital bed. Accompanying her was a young man also about in his early 20s. They seemed like a married couple, which they were. The young woman by the name Flora had just given birth to a healthy little baby boy. As she was laying, she had fell asleep subconsciously by how tired she was. Her husband, named Alan, had been watching his newborn son in his arms sleeping soundly. He couldn't believe it. He had an actual son now. He started a family. He had been so happy. His son cooed softly as he was tucked in by the warmth of his father's body heat. Flora's eyes fluttered open slowly as she started to sit up with the most strength she could have at the moment. She let out a pain groan, alerting her husband. Are you all right, Flora? He had said worriedly. She looked up ahead and scoffed. I'm fine, she said hastily and turned away. Obviously, she had not gotten enough sleep. She then realized something. She had given birth. She needed to see her baby. She spun her head quickly to her husband. Quick! Let me see my baby girl! She said impatiently, holding out her arms for her to handle her baby. Alan chuckled softly. Actually, I think you mean your baby boy, he said teasingly. Flora quickly turned her face into confusion. What? She said, her excitement fading away. I said, I think you meant your baby boy, he said. Flora could help. He started to hold out his newborn son to Flora's arms. Flora couldn't help but wrap her arms around her baby. She looked at him for quite a while, and slowly but surely, her face was full of disappointment at her baby. She couldn't believe it. She had gotten a baby boy instead of a beautiful baby girl. Does that mean there was a dick inside of her? Ew! She dismissed that thought quickly and thought of a name. She couldn't care less about this baby and his name, but she had to at least to seem not disgusted by the little abomination she herself created. Have you thought of a name for her? Alan had questioned. Oh yes, I was just thinking about that. Let me think. What about Terrace now? She retorted quickly. Alan smiled a bit. It sounds suitable for a little baby boy right here. He tickled the baby now named Terrence and smiled widely out of happiness. More like yours, she whispered to herself. She had wanted a girl, not a boy. She was greatly disappointed. She handed Terrence back to Alan. I'm going to take a quick nap. I need to rest, she said rather quickly. Alan held the baby carefully and let her lay back down. Alan had now put his gaze to Terrence. Well, your mom is going to sleep, but in the meantime, you'll have your daddy. He laughed wholeheartedly at him. Terrence had giggled as he could tell. With his tiny baby brain, his dad was a very fun man. Keep it down, please. His mother groaned in tiredness. Okay, jeez, his father had replied. Gee? He had tried to replicate his father's words. Alan had gasped and, well, had the rest of the day to spend some time with Terence. The day where Florence could finally come home, she was ecstatic to leave. She was currently in the front seat with her husband, while her husband was driving happily. She had gotten annoyed of her baby already. She couldn't handle this annoying squeaks her baby kept making. However, it was the opposite with Alan. He had loved Terence since day one. Literally, day one. He spent his time visiting Terence in the hospital after he left his work. At this point, Terence recognized him from how often he came to see him. When they finally reached their destination, it being their home. Flora opened the car door and swiftly opening the back door, unbuckling Terence from his baby seat and grabbing hold of him tightly in case he would fall. She carried him to the entrance door of the house where Alan was still opening with his key. As soon as she arrived, he opened the door for her to walk in first with Terence along, and soon he turned off the car and went in himself. He sighed in relief as he dropped his keys to the table. Flora looked around as to see if it was well kept by her husband. It looks clean enough, I suppose, she admitted. In truth, she was impressed how clean and spotless the house used to be, since she always the one cleaning. Yeah, I had lots of free time, so why not clean anything up? Ellen had said nervously. He knew cleaning meant everything to her. She would have his head if he had messes around. She nodded confusingly, but eventually decided to not care why he seemed nervous. Terence had cooed loudly at his mother, reaching his arms out at her, which resulted in her having a face of disgust. She gave Terence to Alan quickly. "I'll be in the shower. Please have him," she said a bit irritated and left the room. As she headed to her own room, which had a shower installed, Alan blinked as he processed everything she said. At his flaw, he was a bit slow and he wasn't proud of that. He realized what she said and at last and looked at Terence. "Well, I just saw you to your room. You must be tired, eh, buddy?" he said in a babyish tone to his son. It was very late, exactly 10 p.m., so he wasn't wrong why he would assume why he would be tired. Terence smiled a bit and reached out for his dad. Alan smoothed even harder and brought him upstairs to his son's new room. As he walked over to the door, Terence was in awe on what he was seeing before his eyes. Alan chuckled at this. As the door opened, the first thing that was in view was a beautifully sculpted crib on the color white, with a brownish teddy bear to the side. The walls were painted in a lovely baby blue. Suiting, if you ask me. The crib had a transparent white cover over it, which added more into the beautiful part. It was stunning. There was a lamp next to the crib, which was lit on with stars moving all around the room. The other side of the room had a box with a chest-like design filled with numerous toys to play with. It was the perfect room for a baby as Terence was. Alan could feel the happiness and excitement radiating from his son. Alan walked in and sat him down in the crib. It was extremely comfy, eh? He jokingly said. Terence replied with a giggle. Alan chuckled back at his reply. Well, I should be leaving. It is very late and you should go to sleep, okay? Terence couldn't understand the word, but he nevertheless could at him. Alan smiled and kissed his son's forehead. Sleep well, Terence. He stepped out of the room and turned off the lights, except for the lamp, of course. He shut the door softly and left. Terence immediately went to sleep. But during all that, where was Flora? Was she really showering? Well, let's see. Flora went to her room quickly after she handed Alan her son. She sighed loudly on how tired she was of this baby before she realized something and thought to herself, now being more ecstatic. Maybe if She started speaking. No, that's too over the top, but it could work. It can't help her. She widened her eyes as Anastasia understood it. And Dia struck to her head knowing she already had the resources, and soon went to go find her books she had received from her descendants a long time ago, hidden from beside the room. She quickly tried to go through the pages to search for what she needed to find. How do I summon Satan? She kept thinking to herself as she flipped through the pages. At some point, even growling in frustration, soon being doubtful of her idea working due to it being a little too impossible to be true. Inevitably, she had found her answer. This had made her hesitate for a bit until she took a deep breath and looked more into it more, trying to make it work as she now was going to start. She had the ritual ready, and now came the words she was about to chant. She sighed deeply, preparing herself for this moment. This is what she wanted, so why is she so nervous? No matter. She shook her head and dismissed those thoughts immediately. She closed her eyes and let the words come out of her mouth until she was automatically saying the words without stopping. Her eyes widened and everything was black. She finished it. She did it. So now what? She looked around and saw no differences of what she was saying before. Everything was black. She herself had color, but not the environment. It was unusual. She decided to walk to see what would happen. As she took the first steps, she had expected something, but nothing happened. So as curious as she was, she kept walking, but just very slowly, seeing as she wanted to be cautionary. Her eyes saw a speck of color for a moment until a large figure stood in front of her. It was horrifying and downright terrifying how the figure seemed to be. Large black and red horns on the head, incredibly large, vibrant, hot pink teeth everywhere on its mouth. The red, seemingly glowing eyes having gazed on the woman beneath them. The wings seemed to be as of an angel's, if it weren't for how chopped up the wings seemed to be. The color was a noir black and a faded scarlet red. They had a slim, pointed tail sticking out. It was colored blue, with a burst of red on the middle. The claws seemed endlessly enough to kill someone less than a millisecond. It sent her so many damn chills to the back of her spine. She took a step back, being cautious of the being she had just summoned. She was breathing hard out of her fear of the figure. Was it you who summoned me? A raspy, seeming corrupted voice came out of the figure standing in front of her. Well, I suppose, yes, I did. She replied, trying to keep herself together. The figure did a sinkingly sinister smile. "So, what is it you seem to wish for?" it had said. Flora had to blink twice to understand what the demon was saying. "Well, I wish to know if I will have any dollars or cents in the future. I want to know so I can be cautionary," she finished. The devil seemed to find this amusing. "Well, according to what I have here, you're going to have $2 and 2 cents, which will be the oldest and youngest," he replied. "Shit," Flora cursed. He questioned. "Can I ask for another wish?" she questioned. Satan chuckled darkly. "Of course, but it'll cost you 2 souls since this is a second wish," he replied, thinking of ways to corner her. Flora pondered for a bit. "You can't have my 2 sons' souls, then. I could care less," she retorted in annoyance, knowing she would have another boy in the future. The devil laughed a bit louder this time on how quickly she gave the souls of her son and her future one. He never met someone like this, so it was very entertaining for him to hear this from her mouth. "Well, okay then. What is your wish?" He seemed to see what she wanted from him. "I want to make my oldest and youngest son immortal as a curse, so I can kill them endlessly with them coming back every time to me again and again," she said angrily. The devil didn't quite expect this, and honestly, he was taken aback. "That's some sinister shit, lady. Are you sure, though? The pain of killing an immortal person is twice as much," he said, warning her. "That's even better." She smiled slightly. "I just didn't want any boys," she hastily said in annoyance. "Well, okay then. Do we have a deal then?" Satan said that he put his hand out, expecting a handshake to seal the deal Flora and him had just created. Flora reached her hand out to his and took it. Deal. With that single word, everything was chaos from then on.